2 minutes ago, right, everyone? Nice to see all of you today. We're so happy to talk to you about what we do in our office, as well as just opportunities within our office as well. We have a really diverse and exceptional group of individuals who really are passionate about public service and higher education and all of the different facets of the practice of law. So we look forward to talking to you about a number of those different areas. So as mentioned, I have Bess and Marina with me today. Marina, will have her introduce herself when she talks about her practice group as well. And as you'll note from this particular slide, our email addresses are on there. Those are our direct email addresses. So if you want to take either one of those down, we'll be sure to, I can drop them in the chat later in our presentation as well. If you have any follow-up questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to reach out to any one of us. We will also share information related to just our contact information generally, information related to careers or anything or postings later in the presentation as well. And during the process of this presentation, if you would like to send a message to, if anything, do it to me or maybe Dean Fitzpatrick, any direct questions, if you don't want it to go to the entire chat, we'll definitely review and monitor, and we can address some of those later at the end of the presentation as well. So in terms of SUNY system and the landscape here, we are the nation's largest comprehensive state public university system. So we have 64 institutions. So amongst those, we have research universities, academic medical centers, liberal arts colleges, community colleges, colleges of technology, and also an online learning network as well. And so later in the presentation, when Beth is speaking, you'll be able to see kind of how we're situated across the entire state. We have campuses that span all the way from the north all the way down to the South Long Island and otherwise. And we serve over 1 million students accordingly amongst all of these different types of programs. In terms of credit bearing, we have about 600,000 credit bearing students, but we also have students who do certificate and non-credit programs. And in terms of continuing education, we are an environment that is really committed to ensuring that we provide education globally in a manner that's also lifelong, right? So beyond our undergraduate or graduate students that may be on campuses, we definitely and certainly encourage individuals to do graduate work and then other professional development work along thereafter. And then we have approximately 3 million alumni globally. And in those little flags, you can see representations of our different campuses across the entire system. From an athletic standpoint, here we have both NCAA teams, whether it's Division I, Division III, as well as some NJCAA teams with our community colleges and other athletic associations that are a part of us as well. And this is really important because as we talk about later on, kind of what we cover in student affairs, a number of different areas, we have a number of issues that span athletics as well as other things in a lot of the hot topic areas that are in the news today. And I'll turn it over to Bess.
All right, so Kapil Wangani is our Senior Vice Chancellor for Legal Affairs and General Counsel. So Kapil and I actually started in February, and we worked together for the New York City Mayor's Office for several years, where Kapil was the Chief Counsel to the Mayor of New York City. He also previously was senior counsel to Representative Elijah Cummings and has experience as a prosecutor and a litigator. One of the first things that we knew we had to focus on when we started here was to make sure that our team, the Office of General Counsel, is one of the best, if not the best at all of SUNY. And as many of you may know, Chancellor John King, who is the 15th Chancellor of SUNY, he started in January and is a brilliant and passionate educator and individual who served as Secretary of Education under President Obama. And he's also a lawyer. So I think, we've gotten tremendous support from the Chancellor, the Board of Trustees, and SUNY generally. And it's been really important to Kapil and I and everyone on our team to make sure that the General Counsel's office is made up of really dedicated, passionate, elite attorneys and individuals like MISHKA and MARINA. It's really important that we focus on how we can also best support our clients, right? The Chancellor, the Board of Trustees, and SUNY. And so over the last several months, we've been really focused on reshaping our office with the support of the wonderful folks on this screen. And as you will see on the next slide, as Mishka mentioned, this is SUNY, right? This is where we are. I actually have this map pinned right next to me, and really for two reasons. One, because my geography of New York, my knowledge of the New York State geography is not that great. But two, I think it's really helpful for me to see this and remember, like, the work that we're doing is to support all these campuses across the entire state. And I think for those of us who are, passionate public servants, it's always helpful to know, like, this is who you're working for. This is what you're working towards. And so if we go over to the next slide, you'll see that we are now expanding, and we are basically going to be creating practice groups within the Office of the General Counsel. And so these are our general practice groups: generalist, contracts, Title IX and student affairs, litigation and labor, health affairs, intellectual property, and immigration. And I want to say, I think it's a really exciting time to be on the ground of the Office of General Counsel as we are building out our office further and building out these practice groups. And so I'm going to discuss a couple of them, but first I'm actually going to turn it over to Marina and then Mishka to talk about their practice areas and their experience here.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Marina Chu. I'm one of the assistant counsels in the contracts practice group. I graduated from Albany Law in 2019 with my JD LLM. And then I'm also an alumna of the University at Albany. So I started at SUNY back in April, so I'm still pretty new to the office. And I came from private practice, and now I'm doing contracts. I lovingly call our practice group the little mushrooms of the office, but I say that with the utmost love. We're the people that are going through every agreement that campuses need and the system needs to function. So we are looking at contracts for textbooks. We're looking at contracts for services like software that you might not even know we're contracting with. So anything that needs to be purchased within SUNY and all of our campuses, we're using contracts to do that. And we're the people, our practice group is the one that's looking at those contracts and negotiating terms for SUNY and the campuses. So this practice group, I think if you enjoy working independently, I think this is a really good practice group because oftentimes it's you with your contracts and then working with your clients or campuses to help negotiate terms that are best for your campus. And this position is an interesting position because it's an in-house position, but with the state. So you get like the you're getting both the best of both worlds, where you're in-house, but at a state job working in public service. Bess, if there's other things you want me to expand on, I don't know.
No, that's very helpful. And as Marina mentioned, she's a very proud alum. And I think, as she said, the experience here, it's honestly, it's fun. We get to work on a lot of, different and interesting things. So for example, in the generalist group, we have a couple of attorneys who we consider generalists, and they really handle the day-to-day matters for our state operated campuses. So it could be anything from handling an employment matter, to, working on a policy development, really anything you can think of and maybe not even think of, right? So sometimes it's really hard to like be able to comprehensively cover every single topic or every single issue that'll come up. But it's, I think it's really fun. I think there's like great opportunities kind of throughout our office. But one of the things, for example, that we've all been working on, the generalists have been really involved in as well, is, preparing SUNY's response to the Supreme Court decisions on affirmative action, and working at other university-wide policies. Within our litigation and labor division, our managing counsel, Erica, she is an excellent attorney who previously worked at the Attorney General's office. That group manages issues related to federal litigation, state litigation, labor arbitrations, administrative proceedings like Division of Human Rights complaints, for example, and really our most high profile litigation that would be affecting, it could be affecting any campus, right? Or it could be affecting multiple campuses. So recently I know, I mean, Erica handles a lot, but one specific example that I won't get into too many details on is, she handled a very significant subpoena request where she had to successfully negotiate it down to a specific set of documents. Because as you saw on the prior map, SUNY is a massive system. And I think really narrowing it down to, a specific scope was very beneficial to the system. After that, we have health affairs. So that position is going, or that practice group is going to be brand new. We actually have not posted the positions for that yet, but those will be going live pretty soon. We also have intellectual property. We have an attorney starting with us soon who will be managing this portfolio. So it would be all the marks for SUNY, including any marks for the campuses as well. And then finally, we have immigration. Well, I guess not finally, because we're going to turn it over to MISHKA in a little bit to talk about Title IX and student affairs. But we also have immigration, where that is, again, a new practice group. So I think, it's a really exciting time, as I mentioned earlier, to be on the ground of the General Counsel's office to help us build these practice groups and to provide, support to the chancellor and to the board and to, really all of SUNY, to our clients. And it's a great opportunity for anyone who is interested in public service or is currently in public service, I think, to expand their wings. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to MISHKA, who will talk about all the exciting and interesting things that they're working on within the Title IX and Student Affairs group.
Sure, thanks, Beth. So, as I think about, and I listen to all of you, and I think about this presentation, and we were trying to think of a title, and I know that we promised like a day in the life of our office, and what does that mean? And so as we're putting slides together, I was trying to think of what are the different things that we touch. And I know that I only touch a small portion of what we touch as a team, but we do work in a very collaborative way. So as I talk about a little bit about what I touch, and then like a practice group, Kelly, our colleague, would have loved to be here today. She unfortunately wasn't able to join us, but one thing that I really want to highlight about how we operate in this team, as you look at that map, is that we are centered in Albany, and we, reside in a giant castle daily where we go to work. But we touch all of these campuses on a daily basis. So everything that you hear and everything that you do and every practice group that we mention and that you see on the screen, we connect every single day. And there's no way in which we could function without really making sure that we're collaborative in a really not only efficient way, but in a meaningful way when it comes to our mission and our values. And as Beth noted, like our commitment to higher education, our students, and those that we serve. And so I'm trying to click over to my next slide. So as we were thinking about, what is a day in the life of the Office of General Counsel, the irony here with this visual, which feels very busy and even, putting together designs that's the day in the life of not only just our office, but one person. So as I thought about what have I touched in one day between almost every email and every conversation I've had, there have been days where it has been all of these things, or they were mentioned to me because something happened to come up, because that's the nature of the work that we do. So the beauty of the practice groups and the design that you saw is that as a generalist, you may touch all of these things and they may come across your desk. And then you have these individual specialists in these practice groups, such as student affairs, which I can talk about that I've worked with and do right now, and focus on, which touches a lot of other practice groups, where you'll have people who are really focused on potentially each one of these areas or a facet of these areas to really support you if you're a generalist here. So the phenomenal thing here, as you can see, is that it's expansive in terms of what we touch. I think every single one of these topics that you see, whether it's immigration or cannabis or opioid prevention or something of that nature, it's a hot topic, critical issue in our time. There's a headline on it in some way, shape, or form. So even beyond the work that we do in impacting individuals on a daily basis, so like in student affairs, you have the individual case that you're working on with a particular student where you're going to be determining what the outcome may be for, let's say, a sexual harassment case or some sort of other academic issue or something of that nature. You're dealing with that on the individual level, but then also here at System and across our campuses, you're looking at a big picture. So for example, we have new regulations that are going to drop in October that are going to touch Title IX expansively. So it's going to expand the scope of Title IX related to harassment to discrimination. It's going to more clearly define non-discrimination as related to gender status, sexual orientation, and gender identity, all of those different things. And we as a system are going to have to look at, how does that impact our system as a whole and all of our campuses and then individuals on them. So in our student affairs practice group, we do touch pretty much all of these areas for the most part. Even data privacy as related to FERPA and student privacy. Data privacy will also touch our medical academic institutions as related to HIPAA, immigration, of course, and cannabis legalization. We touch it not only for students as to the implications for cannabis use on campus or medical marijuana and the need to potentially use medical marijuana and what we need to do in terms of exemptions for our students so that they could still get the support that they need from a medical standpoint while also maintaining compliance from a federal level. Athletics, we have NIL going on. Title IX is also an issue related to that. So there's a lot going on. Even in a meeting today, we talked about AI and not just the implication for us as lawyers, but for academic dishonesty. So as we talk about who we are and what we do, it's really expansive, but we really do support SUNY System. So we are their general counsel. We represent them in terms of their efforts to be an exceptional academic institution and help them meet their business needs as well as their strategic mission related to education. But then we also are thinking about our students, our faculty, our employees, and everyone else as well, and how do we act in their best interest? And then society at large, how can we be thought leaders and also help address certain issues. And I think affirmative action is talked in that bottom corner, but of course that's been the forefront of headlines now for quite a few months now. And a lot of the things that I mentioned are things that we work on in the OGC level, and then we support leadership, as Bess mentioned, on the system level, working with the chancellor and other individuals within the board in support of these initiatives more broadly in the communities. So I will turn it over back to Bess to talk about the practice groups a little bit more. And we wanted to leave time for questions, answer any questions, or Marina, if you want to build upon anything that I said. I know Marina, even from a contract standpoint, contracts and all those groups touch everything we do for the most part, especially related to data privacy, student affairs, real estate, a number of those other things as well, mergers and acquisitions and anything that might happen there. So it's a really great space if you enjoy really being involved in not just the legal matters, but the business and policy decisions for an institution that has a really broad impact statewide. Oh, and the one thing I will say, I know I didn't say my background. So I joined SUNY a year and a half almost ago, December 2021. I was in private practice prior, really specializing in education, compliance, health, and human services. And I did graduate from Albany Law School in 2016 after having a career in business and law, education, and healthcare and otherwise. So I will turn it back over to my team.
So yes, actually, as MISHKA was showing these hot topics, I mean, one of the things I was thinking about is, in the 3.5 hours this morning, a couple of things we did touch on was artificial intelligence. I worked on I answered a question related to a grant issue, insurance, personnel, employment issue. So there is a lot that we do in, I think, a very short period of time. So, even with the practice groups that we outlined, these positions, as Mishka mentioned, are not siloed, right? So Marina's handling like global agreements. She's handling, agreements for like vendors on a campus. And it's very important to us that, we want everyone to collaborate and work together and learn from each other. And I think there's a lot of opportunities at SUNY to do that. You may be the immigration expert, but it doesn't mean that you will only ever work on immigration. If you're interested in cannabis legalization, there's an opportunity for you there. We really do want people who, contribute to part of the team, want to be part of the team, and want to learn more than, whatever their specific expertise is. And, one of the things I think, Mishka touched on as well, SUNY really was created on the basis of equity. And so that's something that I think really runs through everything that we work on here, and is really important to all of us as we, think through all the issues, because as you saw on that map, whatever we work on, it could like affect the entire state, right? Obviously the campuses have their own identities as well. But I think that just adds to, making the job really interesting and fascinating. And there is no day that is like exactly the same, right? Every day is different. And I think that's what makes it fun to work here. And it's also part of the reason why, I enjoy it. It's our team. And not just, yes, the Office of General Counsel is the best team, but it's not just our individual General Counsel's office. We do have, great chancellor and senior staff that we, I think, are very fortunate to have the opportunity to work with every day. So,
and Bess, and I don't know, did we talk about just how we're designed and our structure in terms of like which campuses and what kinds of campuses our councils are on? Just because we do represent some campuses from our general counsel's team. So when we talk about being a generalist, like that difference between sitting on a campus or being here.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thanks for reminding me, Mishka. So out of all of our campuses, 29 are state operated. And so they're the ones we have legal privilege with. Half of those 29 state operated campuses have counsel physically on their campus, but they are part of the larger, they are part of the Office of General Counsel. So in terms of the generalist role within the system administration office and Albany, they would be, supporting a couple of campuses from Albany and not physically on their campus, but we all work together and we collaborate, right? And so that actually this morning, right before this call, that's one thing we worked on, is that we had a meeting with all of our counsel and staff across the entire Office of General Counsel, including all of our campus counsel. And, we discussed some of these hot topics that are actually on this page. And, I think it's really important to all of us to learn from each other, regardless of where you physically are located. And it's really just a great opportunity. So thanks for reminding me, Mishka.
I'd also like to add on top of that, like Mishka was saying with the generalists, the specialized groups that we have, so like Mishka being in student affairs, Title IX, and me doing contracts, we're working hand in hand with campus councils on a daily basis to basically help with whatever expertise that we have in our special groups. So we're often touching different topics all throughout the day. Like this whole list that Mishka has is very specific with a lot of the student affairs and campus issues. But with the contracts groups, we're working hand in hand to bring different programming, speakers to campuses. We're doing some of the fun activities that get brought onto campus, like the different concerts and artists that would come on to campus, as well as something that's not as glamorous by doing our software agreements and just doing the day-to-day stuff that people don't even realize is getting done for the campus to even function on a daily basis. So it's constantly changing, and you're constantly working with different people we're all working towards the same goal of helping our campuses and ultimately helping the students that go to SUNY. So it's an interesting role in that we still have our clients, but we're still doing working in public service.
And I think something that Marina mentioned and BESS as well, that's critical is we do have a seat at the table for a lot of those policy conversations and other conversations system-wide. So beyond our department, as BESS mentioned, we work with individuals who are working and focusing on academics here at SUNY, university life here at SUNY as well. So even as we look at some of these projects, for example, the Campus Opioid Overdose Prevention Initiative, that's in partnership with University Life and compliance in a number of different areas on our campus. And so we do work collaboratively there, and very much because of our philosophy here, we are in a lot of situations where we're asked not only for our legal advice, but operationally and from a policy standpoint, what our perspectives are. So it is a really unique space to be able to, especially if you are have a diverse background and love business or policy or something of that nature, all of those skill sets I feel really work synergistically here and collide because of the nature of the work we do. And those are the skill sets that are necessary to also help inform our decision making when supporting the system like this, because we do need to think about those operational and implementation needs, right? I came from healthcare. No, but the worst thing is to make a recommendation and there's no way to actually implement it from a practical standpoint. And so we really do pride ourselves in making every effort to make sure that when we do provide guidance and support and legal advice, that we have thought through all of those other practical aspects of it. And so that's why also having these practice groups and being able to lean on each other to learn about the different expertise or technicalities of a particular area can help inform things of that nature.
So I think with that, we'd love to turn it over to all of you to ask us any questions you might have.